Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to the latest edition of the Genesys Cloud Community's Q&A Show, the show where we answer your pressing questions from the Genesys online community. My name is Matt Lawson. I'm your online community manager, and today I am sitting down with two titans of our online community. I had the rare opportunity to get them both on an episode. It's a real milestone for me. I love these guys. I've known them my whole career at Genesys, and we've never had the chance to record together until now. I don't want to stand in their way. You'll know them, you'll love them. Let's go ahead and say hi to Robert and George. Guys, welcome to the show. George, Robert, welcome to the show. I think a lot of people who are in the community see you all the time. I know, George, you've been recognized out in public before. Robert, I'm sure same to you for a variety of reasons. But some people may be seeing you for the first time today. Can we real quick do some introductions, talk about who you are, how long you've been working with or for Genesys, depending on your role? And I guess let's go ahead and start with Robert, because, Robert, this is a real special moment. We get to have a partner of Genesys join the program.
Yeah, so I am with T-Tech Digital, one of the largest, partners and associates of Genesys. Many people think I actually work for Genesys a lot of time than T-Tech. I'm the innovation architect, director, and really our team is just making sure we understand Genesys technologies and disseminate that not only to our internal staff, our salespeople, our installers, our trainers, but our clients as well, helping them to digest all of this technology and features that come out every week and be able to make use of it because we want them to make better use of the products that they've purchased.
Yep. And so everybody knows Robert is, I think, a three-time recipient of Community Rockstar. He's done well over 5,000 posts at this point. He's got to be getting close to 6,000. I don't get your weekly emails, Robert, anymore of how close you are to hitting 6,000 posts. So you may already be there. I'm not sure. But the man of the hour, George, you are one of the founders of the Pure Connect community, which sadly we had to sunset this weekend. You're here. You're George. I don't know what to say. I know you so well, but please tell everybody what you do at Genesys because you have a long storied history as well.
Yes, just being reminded of it this week as like you said, as Pure Connect goes away, I joined Interactive Intelligence back in March of 1999, version 1.2F of CIC for those who count. And I've been in multiple departments. I was in education. I worked in development for a while. I was the IC platform manager, running the whole thing for a bit, and number of years in education at various levels. I've probably trained a good number of folks out there and moved over to doing some support work, helping train our own support engineers and partners for a while. Went to professional services and worked there for a few years. And now I'm actually what's called a technical adoption champion, where my main role is to work with customers to help them understand what these new features mean, what the best features are for the pain points that they're seeing in their organizations. Shameless plug here, I will be at Experience, and if you want to sit down with me at Experience, my team member and I, Jeff Barfield, we created this role a few months ago. But we'll be at Experience and we can sit down with folks half an hour at a time. We're happy to sit down with you and do a session and take a look at your organization and your metrics and so on and give you suggestions on where you should go, what you should be looking at for this AI experience stuff.
Wow, that's an invaluable opportunity.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and as luck would have
there
it,
we
we are
are.
not here randomly, right, guys? What actually brought us together is not merely the idea of, hey, it would be fun to do a Q&A show, even though we always think it would be.
Yeah.
We are here today because the three of us will be doing a session at Experience, and I couldn't be more excited for that. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in the episode and as we get closer to it. George, that's great. You're going to have people sign up. Robert, I think you're going to have something similar, right?
Well, yeah, we have a booth where we have experts. We're going to have, I think, six of our solution architects and myself, some of our gurus there answering all of the questions. And we have our after hours event on Thursday as well for our clients. So,
Very
Hmm.
cool. That all
mhm.
sounds fun. I don't think I got invited to that. I don't know.
Yeah, you're welcome to join. So,
Thanks. Anything for a free meal. Uh,
mhm.
well, cool. Well, yeah. So we are going to be doing the Q&A show live at Experience. It's our first year being able to do it, so we're really excited. When it came down to who should be on the panel, my first thought was, well, let's get the guys who together have over 10,000 answers in the community. It seems like if they're both going to be there, it makes perfect sense to have them on the panel, and we are hoping to answer your questions. So I can't wait to see you all in Nashville. But like I said, right now we're working on a two-part episode. This is the first part. Our friend George is going to be talking about the brand newish AI workbench. How long has it been available now, George?
Oh, since the beginning of July, basically.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
so yeah,
Mhm.
pretty new, pretty new. So yeah, we're hoping to
Mhm.
give you an overview of that, how it works, show you some tips of how it works. Because even when we were doing the demo, sorry, we've already recorded, but even we were figuring some of this stuff out. So you'll get to learn from some of our trials and errors. And then after that, Robert's going to be back for the second session. We're going to talk about interaction categories. Sorry, which is a really fun speech and text analytics feature. Robert, anything you want to add about that?
Yeah, it just really takes topics and sentiment and all these things to a new level of really just focusing on agent behavior and really focusing on what you want to change in agent and how they're working.
Awesome. Well,
Mhm.
we're already over our allotted time for this recording. I want to go ahead. Let's get started. George, I'd love to see your presentation if you're ready. Let's get going.
First thing to know, it's always these little caveats. Uh, customizable summaries, just a little blurb, an overview. But basically, as an admin, you can shape your interaction summaries, fit your own business needs. There are several options you might want to look at in there. As an organization, one of the main things people are looking for could be making sure specific bits of information are included in the summary. We'll look at how you can do that. Trying to make things more concise or be fully verbose. So you have those options. And then also trying to reduce the personally identifiable information or PII from those summaries. So we'll talk about how you can do that, what some of the limitations are, that type of thing. First things first, the permissions needed when you go into the Resource Center right now, as of today, it pulls up the set of permissions for something else. So you need to make sure you have the right permissions configured for AI Studio. And that's going to be the ones that start with AI Studio Summaries and then also AI Studio Summary Preview. So if you want to have full permissions for this workbench, you need all of the permissions that are listed here. If you just want to give somebody the ability to play with the previews and see what they look like, then you could give them these ones down at the bottom. Or if you want to give somebody the ability to view the configuration, maybe edit the configuration, but not add new ones or delete them and so on. There are center articles on how to do this stuff. There's add and manage the AI Studio customizable summary. There's how to assign the summary to Copilot. You have to assign a summary to a specific instance of Copilot for it to be able to be used. And then there's some information on PII information. So just a quick click here. We'll get back to this in a bit, but I wanted to bring up the web page that you have to look at to know specifically what it's supposed to be able to redact from those summaries. And this page here describes PII, so credit card, debit card numbers, expiration dates, CVV numbers, postal codes, passwords, and so on. So all of this stuff in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia should be redacted for everything and the national identification number just in those locations mentioned there. Do know that it's looking for specific formats. So if your information doesn't match the correct format, it probably will not be redacted. Okay, some notes I put in here. So things you should be aware of. Customization does not yet allow for a fully custom PII format to be blocked. And that's something that people talked about a lot when this was being put together. The feature came out without that particular part of it enabled. And that works in progress for a major update later on. But in other words, you cannot put in a regular expression, for example, and say, I want to prevent all information that matches this particular regular expression format from being put into the summary. So that's later.
I had a question. You mentioned this as redaction. This is different than like we have in the regular recordings where we have masking. So this is not
Correct.
masking. This is actual redaction.
Correct. There's no masking involved here. It's just not including the information in the summary. Yeah. So another note here. Let's say you are doing messaging and you have the central digital data filtering rules set up in the admin interface. So let me jump over those real quick to make sure we're talking about the same thing here. So digital data filtering rules. These are designed to actually mask information when it's being used in a web messaging or SMS or whatever type of session. So, for example, if you have a social security number and I turn this on, once that's turned on, then that's going to mask social security numbers when the customer types one into the far end messaging interface, if it's SMS, whatever. The problem is that let's say you need somebody to be able to put in a social security number in a messaging session or whatever session it is, and the bot needs to use that number. Well, by the time it gets to the bot, it's masked. So the bot gets all X's, let's say. And if I've got a regex field or slot set up in a bot, it's going to say, oh, sorry, that does not match the right format because it's all X's. It's not a number. So you cannot block stuff at this level and then expect to be able to use the data in your bot flow. Another thing, Agent Copilot summaries are only stored for 10 days right now. They're looking at modifying that and allowing you to choose between, I think they mentioned 2 hours up through 30 days, but right now it's similar to execution data. It stores a ton of stuff in the back end, so they limit it to 10 days right now. And you can retrieve those via an API call. So you want to get the summaries, you can do that through a couple of ways, including the ones that are generated via virtual agent can be through the second API call, the analytics summaries aggregates. And then if you want somebody to ask somewhere along the line about getting AI insights that are in that interaction details transcripts tab, that has nothing to do with this workbench. That's another tidbit. The summarization workbench only affects Agent Copilot summaries. It does not affect those that show up in AI Insights in the supervisor view, and it does not affect Agent Copilot summaries. So it only affects the Agent Copilot summaries for now.
Or if we use AI Insights in a program right now, it will not utilize the workbench summary.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the AI Insights summary, the one for the supervisors, that's generated separately, and it actually does a summary of the entire conversation. So let's say you have something come in through a virtual agent. So a call comes in, the virtual agent interacts with the caller. It produces its own summary, passes it over to the agent. The agent then has a conversation with that caller, and uh, that part of the conversation has its own summary at the agent copilot level. Maybe it transfers to another agent. They have another conversation, another summary gets generated for that agent. And then later you have a callback that goes back on that exact same conversation ID. So now you got four summaries that may be created for that same conversation. The supervisor version is a combination of all four. It regenerates a summary end to end on the conversation every time. So yeah, it's a little bit confusing there. Not too far down the line, they're going to have the ability to see each individual summary as well through that supervisor AI Insights section. But right now, it's just one summary for the whole conversation. And then also currently, Genesys Cloud limits max input tokens to 15,000. So confusing term possibly. A token is a measure of how many characters basically are included in a transcript of a voice conversation or digital conversation. So it's not AI experience tokens. This is a different type of token, has something to do with speech rec, speech analytics. But just so you know, the 15,000 tokens roughly translates to about 75 minutes of talk time if you're on a voice conversation. So now we'll jump over and get into the interface. And if you don't see AI Studio and Summary Workbench down here, then you have to go back and make sure you add the correct permissions to be able to see it. All right. I have a couple of them I've already created here, but I'll just go ahead and create a new configuration. And you'll notice up at the top, if you've not created any at all yet, I think it may still say default up top. Right now it says enter configuration name here. When I first created one, I didn't go enter the name first and got all the way down through it, tried to save it. It won't let you actually save until you change the name. It keeps the save button grayed out until you put a name in there. So I'm going to just call it Sales 2. So now I've got a name and I still cannot save it because there's some configuration settings I need to choose first. First thing is you have to choose a language. As of this very moment, we still have just English and Spanish, but within the next week, it's already been approved. The GA version is going to be released, and you should see all the languages that are shown as being supported under our language support page in the Resource Center.
We tried this morning with German and Portuguese and Japanese, and it worked fairly well. It was good and
Okay.
fast. Mhm.
So you got it already in your region.
Yes,
Got
yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Which is probably what, US West too, or
Yes. US East. Well, it's a
US
it's a
East?
pre-release that I got, yes, but yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
very good because we're
Yeah.
testing for our European customers who are very interested in this feature.
hmm Exactly. Yep. So I'll just choose the English, United States, and your conciseness. You've got two versions. You've got concise or detailed. So if you choose concise, it's going to put less information into the summary. Choose detailed, it's going to give more information that's in the summary. You notice over to the right, it has a transcript area. This is a sample transcript that's provided by the system. So this is something that allows you to play with it and figure out what your summary might look like based upon this transcript. So I'll just click Generate Preview. And remember, you have to have permissions to see the preview side. So make sure if you don't see that, you go back and assign the correct permissions. But here, based on concise and blocks of text, it's going to give me a summary similar to this one. And it's including the reason for call, the resolution, and the action items down here. So if I uncheck those and regenerate it, those should go away. Yeah, so now it's just a summary preview, concise, real brief summary there. I usually leave those checked just to give the agent a little bit of extra information. So that's blocks of text and concise. If I go detailed, regenerate, lets me see a little bit more information. And then bullet points, group blocks of text, or group bullet points. So play with it until you get the format that you like. A couple of other things down here before we get back to PII. You can change the participant labels. So right now it's got agent and customer. So if I want to change it, let's say I change it to internal is going to be associate, external can be consumer. This is going to change how it shows up in your, actually shows down below in the summary, the associate provided, the consumer reported, and so on. So at least it changed it in the summary as to who did what. It's not going to change it in the chat because that comes from the messaging side. What I want to do is I want to show some other information because we turned on PII. And I've actually got a document I threw together. I just have some nonsense kind of entries that I use for testing this stuff because you can put your own transcript in here.
Yeah. That's a cool feature. You can just take your transcripts and format it a little bit,
hmm
pop it in here and see how your conversations would look.
Correct. Yeah, so you can take an actual transcript, and as long as you format it with the right wording here, now it's got consumer and associate showing up. Um, Actually, I put those in my own because I wanted it to match these wordings. But I threw in there a social security number. It's got the letters SSN in there. Got the account number in there. That's like a bank account number, loan account number. Um, the consumers asked them if they can pay, gives a Visa number before the agent can say no. So here's the full Visa information. This is a fake Visa number. You can pull them off the internet when you're doing testing. And then, can somebody call me back? Here's a phone number. Can somebody email me? Email address. All these are PII. So I got all that stuff in there. And if we try it out. You can see a fair amount of information was removed here. The SSN was not included. The wanted to pay, no payment was made. Gave an account number in here. I would rather not have the account number included, but there's no way to exclude that because it does not match any kind of format that should be excluded. Inquired about outstanding claims, credit file, overdue account, whatever, offer to pay. So all the stuff was redacted. There's no license plate number, there's no address, there's no email, there's none of that included in here. If I go back up and I do detailed though, regenerate it. It's got the account number in there again. It's got the account number there. Does mention the address in Corona, California. And it also has the account down here mentioned. So it's got a little bit of information there, not bad. Now let's take a little look at a couple of things. If I just say I'd like to check on this number. So it put in here, inquired about account, but it put my social security number in there. It did not pick up on it because it's not in the right format. The word SSN included in up above, but in this case, if it's not in the format with dashes around it, the back end doesn't really pick up on that being a social.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to make sure that if something like that comes through, the agent's probably going to have to just go and delete it manually. But if it says SSN, great. But if it doesn't, then it probably won't pick up on it properly in the detail mode, especially.
I
So there
suppose
we're
it'll
back
catch
to
like
finding the
social
SSN.
security number if they actually set it out to, right?
Right,
Or my
right.
social is or something
Yeah,
like
just the word
Mm-hmm.
social. I was thinking about that too.
that.
It's looking for keywords around it,
Yeah.
definitely. That's something. Another thing to note down here. So, okay, so we got PII being cut out for the most part, but if you add insights, okay, I've got some examples here of ones I put together. So maybe I put license plate in there. And you have to put a description. I usually put something that kind of describes the format. Not saying that it's actually going to necessarily go by that format, but license plate number is PII. It's supposed to be excluded. However, if you specifically put an insight label in there and tell it, hey, I want to put the license plate down at the bottom, it's going to pull it out and throw that in there, even though PII is excluded. Another thing to note down here, let's say I want my account number. And
And these descriptions are very similar to the prompts like we see in Virtual Agent.
And I'm just throwing descriptions in there. It's recommended to use 10 words or fewer, so don't get too verbose. And I'm not saying that that actually matches the format exactly, but I think it tends to help a bit. I don't have explicit verification that this is going to shape exactly what it's looking for, but putting in that account number field. The main thing I want to point out here is the customer mentions their account number twice, two different account numbers. So there's one up here and one down here. But when you do the insight, at least for now, it only shows the first one that's mentioned, not the two that were mentioned. So it's got the first account number, but not the second one down here. If I go back up and I remove the words account, move that word there, move that word there. So it does not pull the account numbers out because the word account or nothing similar was near those numbers. So if they just give a number without saying what it is, there's a good chance it won't be picked up and displayed down there in the insight label. Even though I put in, well, I want this format. Well, it's not picking up on that specifically. I just threw that in there so I can say, here's exactly what I'm looking for, but it's not shaping the search through there to find the information particularly.
The insights that you're getting, those fields of information, is that stored inside the AI insights in the conversation detail? Is it accessible through an API?
AI Insights, no. That's the
Okay.
supervisor level. And so far, this does not affect supervisor level summaries. And here, even with SSN being supposedly excluded by PII, reason for call, why I check on the SSN. So even though it's excluded and I no longer have it in the custom insights, it still pull it back in. So it doesn't always seem to exclude the PII perfectly. And that's a caveat that's written in that website. PII compliance is not guaranteed by enabling this option. It's written right there. Works pretty well. There are the caveats of, hey, if you specifically include something that you don't want in there for PII, but you put in a custom insight, it's going to pull it in anyhow. And then also the caveat that PII won't always be excluded perfectly. Once it's in the shape that you want it to be, the one further step that's needed, well, one is to um, actually save it. And then once it's saved, you need to go on over to an Agent Copilot and use it on the Copilot. Remember to make sure the language on the summarization matches the language on the Copilot. So here, summary configuration, to choose the one I just experimented with. And you can click here to go to the summary workbench if you want to go work on one. Save the Copilot, and then that one will be active on that Copilot. All right, so that should do it.
Well, that was great. Thanks a lot, George. The one question I had is, so once you set up the summarization like you're showing at the end, I guess it's just after the agent ends the call, they'll get the summary, or is it like an instant summary? Is it like a daily summary? How does is there a digest? How does the distribution of this work?
So it's one summary per conversation instance or per segment of the conversation essentially. So if it's a situation where an agent gets a call and they're on that voice call and at the very end of the voice call there's a summarization that gets put into their client, then they see that summary and copy and paste it over or not. If even that same agent gets a callback request that comes in. Well, that's the same conversation ID, but it's a different actual voice conversation or voice interaction. They're not going to get the combination of the two summaries. It's only going to have a summary of that particular part of the conversation. Same kind of thing with messaging, because with messaging, it tries to route to last agent. So if you're in this asynchronous web messaging or maybe SMS sessions, whatever, there could be a conversation that takes place one day. And if you have your window set wide enough, the next day that person could come back and continue that web messaging session. But at that point, they're reconnecting possibly to a different agent, and then they're going to get a different summary of just that portion of it at the end of that section. So things can be broken up into segments, if you will.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, the summary seems like something management would be interested in. So I was just curious how they could get a hold of,
Mhm.
something like that. And then if there's a higher level summary or, something like that, I'm sure in some way there is.
Well, the higher level summary is the one for supervisors that gets generated for the entire conversation overall. So that one's different in that it's the entire conversation.
Okay.
And then later this year, I don't have an exact date, they're going to enable the ability for supervisors to see those individual agent summaries.
Now you had mentioned that the 15-day, limit on these. We
10
found
day,
that to
yeah.
be a problem for a lot of our clients, and so we developed a
Mhm.
trigger and a workflow that at the end of the conversation, copy out that summary and then put it into the notes, which are
Mhm.
kept
Mhm.
longer term.
Mhm.
So just an
Yeah,
automatic, repository for those long-term, summaries.
right.
Mhm.
So that's definitely something people do, or that same kind of trigger and copy it over into Salesforce or
Mhm.
ServiceNow or Oracle Service Cloud or their own custom
Yep.
CRM, whatever. As long as there's an API to write to, you can have that trigger and workflow that does that copy over at the end of the conversation.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's what I
Definitely.
was mostly curious about. Robert, did you have any questions for George following the demo?
No, great job, George, and thank you for the information. Mhm. A
Yeah.
lot of little
Yeah.
nuances that we probably didn't understand.
Yeah.
Nuances. Preview is really awesome. It was cool to see that.
And the whole thing, of course, is waiting on people to give their ideas on what changes they'd like to see. They're working on the next version right now. So if you get those ideas in and really start voting them up, that'll help the developers know exactly where to concentrate.
That's cool. And if you do have questions about this feature, good news, we are going to be an experience. You can ask them to us
Hmm.
live there, or you can post in the
Yeah.
community. We're okay with that too. Whether or not these two will be able to answer you is another question. But if you want to meet with them, have a chance to get your questions answered by them live for sure, try to see us
Hmm.
experience when we're there in Nashville. Um,
Yeah.
like I said at the top of the call, first of all, thank you guys. Haven't had the two of you on the episode before together. This is a real milestone for me. It meant a lot. And just remember, this is only part one of two sessions that we're going to do. Robert
Hmm.
is going to be up for the second one where we talk about interaction categories. I'm really excited to learn
Yeah.
more about that. And when we post this episode in the community, there will be a chance for you to drop any questions that you have about interaction categories or, Workbench. Maybe George can have time to answer those in the next episode. And we'll try to get answers for you guys on these two topics because when we asked them what they wanted to present on, these were the two topics that George and Robert came up with. So we hope you all find this interesting. And if you have any questions, now's a great time to get them answered. Um,
Hmm.
Other than that, I think we're done here. George, thanks so much for the demo. Robert, thank you so much for your time. We're going to sign off, but we'll see you all here in a couple of weeks.
Great.
Great. Thank you, Matt.
Bye.
All right. Again, that concludes this week's episode. We will be back in a couple of weeks with part two, where Robert is going to talk about interaction categories. So if you have any questions for Robert or George about what you just saw, drop them in the community. You'll see our pinned post with this episode. You can drop them right there and we'll make sure they get answered on the next go around here in a couple of weeks. That does it for me today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. And more importantly, I hope to see you at Experience. Have a good one, everybody. Talk soon. Bye.